Calling this meeting to order. Roll call.
Rob Wilkerson.
Here.
Brad Carver. I do not see him yet. Jeff Terry.
Here.
Mike Hill.
Here.
Randy Lewis.
Here.
Will Harris.
Here. Okay. So do we have any, let's see, approval of meeting summary, October 7th and special meeting and October 21st regular meeting. So does anyone have any changes, to those minutes and stuff?
I do not.
I'll give one at a time. With the October 7th, 2024 minutes, I make a motion to approve those minutes as
Okay, it's been
presented.
moved and second. Okay. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes.
Then there were some changes that came through on the 21st one. And I'm not sure. I looked at that and I don't know.
That's
There's a-
access wills.
Yeah, the updates were twofold. One, spelling error on the last name of one of our public testimony individuals.
Right.
And the addition that we were gonna, the STR, my recollection, and please either verify or deny it, whatever the right word is. But as I recall, we were gonna get all our inputs to Randy on the 4th. We were gonna get a draft out on the 11th. We would then verify that draft is good and then deliver it to staff on the 18th. Understood there were those 3 steps that we were gonna do.
I can't
And-
remember exactly.
Yeah, that's correct.
The only thing is here, it's October, they're saying October 11th, that's right.
Oh, it would have been November.
Yeah, November.
November. Okay.
Well, what I remember, Marissa sent an email. And your guys' documents were due on the 4th. And then I was supposed to give it back to you guys and the deadline was today. But I talked to Marissa, we decided she do a little word magic and change the format, so we decided she'll go ahead and send it to you guys. She's already done, looks like, so.
Well, I gave your draft to them so they could verify.
Right.
Before I.
Yeah.
I guess I would make a motion to approve the minutes with the changes, the spelling of one of the parties testifying and the change.
So you're gonna approve, well, you move to approve the minutes as amended by Will.
Yes.
With the
along-
change of October to November.
Yeah, with the change of October to November.
Okay, second.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. All right, do we have any changes to this current agenda by commissioners or staff?
Just. Nope. I'd like to make a comment at some point at the end of the meeting, end of the, like item item H or something like that.
Okay, the next one would be H.
Yeah.
All right, so what do you want to do?
Just,
And 1 minute.
Yes. My intent would be just to comment on a couple of observations again that I've run across in.
Okay,
And
so
I
Jeff's
would-
observations.
Do we have, I would like to add to this a brief discussion on STRs.
Oh, so like an additional item,
Additional item.
so.
STR brief discussion, really brief, right?
5 minutes or less.
That would be item I.
Anything else?
Nope.
All right, so Jeff, would you move that you're gonna add items H, Jeff's observations, and I, STR brief discussion?
I would so move.
And Mike,
I'll second.
Mike seconded, okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
I
Opposed? Okay, motion passes. All right, public comment on anything that's not on our published agenda.
I'd just like to say,
Who are you?
my
Jacob.
name is Jacob Ackley, and I would just like to say thank you for the last meeting. You did take a lot of our advice into account. And I hope we can continue to work together to help create a better Mason County. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Linda Livingston Shelton. I just wanted to say that I couldn't find the agenda until, well, now. So I don't know when you guys publish your agenda, but it seems like a little bit earlier would be better. And also I wanted to say that I was on Zoom last week or last month, and the audio is really difficult. I couldn't hear what you guys were saying. So it was, I could hear some of it, but it was really hard to hear. I don't know if anybody else has that problem.
Yeah, thank you.
Sure. We missed a number of items here. Maybe number one. Like the conflict of interest and.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Sorry about that, folks. I'm getting ahead of myself. So we approved the changes. So, yeah, anyone have a conflict of interest?
No.
Nope.
Our next meeting is going to be on the December 16th.
I will not be able to make that meeting.
Okay. And any updates from the commissioners or staff?
Yes, so, sorry, I'm kind of losing my words tonight. The consultant's not here tonight. We do have a shortened agenda because of the short turnaround from our last meeting. So reminder, the CIP hearing is on December 3rd with the BOCC, and that's at 9 a.m. And whichever of the PAC members want to be there, could you email me and let me know you're going to show up? So I begin the process of doing my staff report. I know to look out for you, just in case you show up late, but just give me a heads up if you're going to be there. But there's a CIP hearing on December 3rd. Then countywide planning policies will most likely go before the Board of County Commissioners on January 21st. It's still that still has to be approved, but most likely will be January 21st. And this will give us time to brief the incoming commissioner on the comp plan and the CTP. And then of course, the short-term rental continued public hearing is on 16th, and their public comment is closed on that. So it will be the PAC deliberate.
So, I'm sorry, so what is it happening? What's happening on the 3rd of December?
The 3rd of December, the capital improvement program. I don't think you will.
Oh, okay.
I don't think-
The
These guys might,
commissioners are
got
gonna get a briefing.
got it, okay.
Anything else?
And then, on the materials that you guys get, I know there has been some issues with multiple emails. Is it, you guys find it easier just to get the one email from Mariah with, when you get an updated calendar invite as we get new materials? Is that easier to track than getting emails from me and hers?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, I'm always going through a compare every time I see this, and so,
Okay.
so yes,
We'll do
for
that.
me at least.
Agreed.
I just wanted to recognize Mariah's birthday today.
I have chocolate cake.
Do we sing?
But,
Do
you
we
know,
sing?
We don't want any dogs howling. Okay,
My daughter was born today also.
So was my daughter.
Great day.
Great day. for
Yeah.
Staff is done if you want to
Okay.
continue to.
nothing from the commissioners? Okay,
On to item H,
now item H, Jeff.
We have public comment.
that's coming up.
No, we have to, I screwed up.
Oh, I see.
We gotta go, we gotta do this stuff first.
Go back and forth.
We had a boo-boo. So, yeah.
Okay, okay.
Observation. Couple of things. One is, we had this CIP that we've recommended and given background to it. I have a little concern in that, it looks like 3 or 4 new projects being talked about in the county that aren't part of that CIP. And, one's actually removal, and it had significant amount of funding towards it, which was a Skokomish habitat improvement and stormwater. So I'm a little challenged at how we go through the process of recommending that, when we're having changes in the fly, so to speak.
So we had 1 deletion and 3 additions
Yes,
that were not in the SIP as
As
or
we-
to be presented to the
correct,
commissioners.
correct. So,
You could discuss it on
there,
after meeting at the public hearing.
I probably will discuss it with the board then. Don't worry,
I don't know, I may or may not be there because I'm on jury duty.
okay, that's, got it on that issue. Second point. In last meeting or either last or the previous to that, I raised the issue about mining as being a natural resource. And I noticed, okay, so we have it in our county, CPP, I guess, number 5.2. But when I looked at the RCW under the natural resources thing, there was no mention of mining. So I don't, that's an observation. In other words, we're saying we've included in our,
Mhm.
and I'm not against mining per se, it's just that we seem like we should match up with the goals and the regs. That's my issue. And
That's something else you can talk to the commissioners about.
and third and final thing, how do I address when I move within the county? Well, we're moving from District 1 to District 2.
I'll look into it.
Okay. So I appreciate that. So that's it for me. Thank you.
I wonder if someone would argue, is mining a sustainable natural resource?
Say this again.
Is it sustainable? Like trees, I guess,
They didn't put that.
there's no distinction like that.
No.
Okay.
Well, if you take
Discussion,
something out, you ain't gonna put it
yeah,
back.
the discussion at the last PAC was that it is not sustainable and that unlike a tree that you can regrow, you can't plant
Right.
rock seeds and grow rocks. So that was the discussion. I don't know how it's perceived by the state, but we don't know how to.
Well, if the RCW doesn't say it.
And I don't know, I can't address it.
Although my yard seems to be good at making
And
rocks.
again, I'm not hung up on having,
Right.
I'm more trying to get
Well, this-
our plan within the plan, so to speak.
and ask the commissioners.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Jess.
I'll actually follow up on that, so. I'm the mineral resource lands person for the county. So
Okay.
I'll look on the specific RCWs if it's how it's mentioned.
Right.
But it is one of the identified natural resource, but maybe in a different area of GSA that, yeah, so I'll follow up on that.
Thank you.
Will,
STRs. So I looked at, thank you, Randy, for pulling together what appears to be 5 sets of, so shall we say, diverse set of comments on STRs on top of the original draft. So there's maybe 6 versions there. My expectation was that you would try and have deconflicted some of those, and I realize that's difficult.
Say that again, I'm sorry.
Well, what I see is basically everyone's comments, but what is the proposed ordinance? What's the one final solution that we're trying to, put forward? I'm struggling to see how on the 16th we're going to go through that, because it looks like in one case it says we'll suggest X and Jeff suggests Y, just using the 2 of us for an example. It's like, okay, so are we going to talk about that? And there's a lot of that going through because, Brad shared his comments with all of us. I know what my comments were, and he and I are at, at least what I consider two sets of extremes. And I don't know what the other comments were. I didn't take the time today to go through it all, but I'm trying to figure out how on the 16th, we're going to try and pull all of that together in a meeting.
Well, staff was suggesting they do that type of activity and create maybe a matrix that says here on this, any of these particular things, here is the comments or observations or things from the commissioners. So we would have to go through line by line.
So like,
Sort of like what we did last week.
Correct.
2
right,
weeks ago.
except this time at least it'd be spelled out. It sounds like.
Right. It's,
So we could
there's,
debate the 6,
But-
5 or whatever number of these.
I myself am struggling with that too. I went through that during the day with this. And there's a lot of stuff, even with the matrix and going through line by line. I don't know. I just don't see how we can do it. Even with the extreme help from the staff.
I do think that staff's responses will help, like. Figure out some suggestions may not even.
Well, there were diversity of opinion, but. I mean, how does that work with the commission? Is it like a consensus? Do we vote on which one we, as a group, we want to suggest, or how?
That's how we did that's how we did last time.
What's that?
That's how we were doing it
Okay.
last time. Line by line, does everyone agree?
Yeah,
Yes, no. Put it this way, I believe it to be a lot of work, and I have serious reservations whether we can do all that stuff in the specified time period we have on our scheduled meeting. Now, you guys may have different opinion than me, but that's just from my knothole, looking at all this stuff and also knowing the various interests that the commissioners have and the constituents do.
well, I don't think we should drag it on and on.
No, I'm
Is
just
there-
I'm
there's
just
some-
pointing out. That's all.
No, I get it. I mean, is there something magical about the current deadline that we have to, it's not like the comp plan, we do have specific hard deadlines. If it takes us another couple of meetings to go through it all, what, is that bad? I don't know.
Well, we also have this other thing that we have a schedule on too.
No, that's true. That's true.
That's
And what's more important?
Personally, yeah, it's most important to meet the comp plan deadlines, in my opinion.
Yeah, and then with that said, we also have this STR thing that we have a lot of people that are very interested in getting something nailed down and on the books.
including, I believe, some members of the Board of Commissioners.
They have a big say.
Yes,
They have,
no question about that. Yeah.
commissioners have the say, don't they?
Well,
Ultimately.
the constituents do, yes. So as I said, I think there's a lot of work and we just don't have enough time. Unless we have another activity outside of our scheduled ones. So,
And can we again have a closed meeting with just the commissioners? Or is that against the rules? To iron it out.
I believe we have to have public input. We can't be doing things in behind the
Vacuum.
curtain.
Yep.
We're not a star chamber.
So as much as I hate to say this, we need to have a workshop just on this STR thing alone to nail it down, in addition to what else we have. And I'm sure staff will love me for saying that too.
You've already held a public hearing, so you can't now go back and you had a workshop
True.
and then
But now we have this STR that has a whole bunch of
So
comments within the commissioner.
the best thing to do is to try on the 16th to get as much done as possible within a reasonable amount of time for meeting. If we don't get to something, if we feel like we have to continue it, we can continue the meeting again.
What do you guys think?
I'm game. I think
Shouldn't be making a decision right now. Because
Well, this is a short discussion. We're not making any decisions. But this is what we have before us. We know what we need to get done. And how do we go do it?
if it's gonna be put into a matrix, I'm game for, you know,
I attack it like we did last time
Okay.
and step through it
and just see what
and
happens.
see what happens.
I won't be here at the meeting, so. But I like the idea of the way we did it with the other,
With the
the
CPPs.
matrix. We look at them all and say, okay, whatever their recommendations are. or whatever
Okay,
they
well,
want.
I guess what we'll do is mush on and see where we get at the end of the specified time period.
I suggest we don't have to waste staff's time to put that Word document into a matrix form. We simply have the additions or deletions, and we work through that. Each comment, each addition, deletion, one by one. So don't waste staff time to create another document. Just simply work with that same Word document, and we can hash out the rejections, deletions that we all want.
Thank you, Brad. Okay,
Well, the information's all there. Is it helpful to put it in a matrix? Does that add value to the process, you think?
It gives us something specific to look at. It's not, well, this paragraph, that paragraph, because literally there are comments, as you well know, Randy. I say X, he says Y,
Right.
they're in opposite directions. It would be nice if it was aligned on one row and we could look at it side by side. That's my opinion.
we're gonna have to look at it paragraph by paragraph.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are side by side. They're writing the document together as additions or deletions.
Okay, I think we've discussed this enough.
So what I'm understanding then is we're moving forward on the 16th.
Yes.
That staff is gonna have a spreadsheet together with staff recommendation and comments. And that we'll work with that. Okay, and
That'll probably be faster for the meeting, I would
that's my gut
suspect,
call,
yeah.
yeah. And I would just when you send that out, I added I will send you a file I would like added to the package. It's sort of my thinking behind my recommendations. It's a separate file.
I thought you'd already done that, or is this additional stuff?
I've sent it to you and to him, and not to the PAC. And I'm gonna have
Right.
staff
Wow.
send it to the PAC because then it's all
I sent all
consolidated.
that to Marissa.
Okay.
I'm assuming she was gonna send that out to
All
everybody.
right. That'll work.
Okay, I think we're done with this short topic.
Thank you.
Now we're back to item 2, public comments, and you wanted to say.
My name is Peggy Morrell. I live in Union. Bylaws of the Mason County Planning Advisory Commission preamble. Members of the Planning Advisory Commission shall strive to respect and honor their positions so as to enhance and maintain public confidence in the PAC. Members shall avoid personally disparaging remarks and offensive conduct, which creates an atmosphere hostile to the freedom of speech of all members of the public, even those of opposing viewpoints. Members should be unswayed by partisan interest, public clamor, or fear of criticism. Members should be patient, dignified, and courteous to all parties. By eliminating conflicts of interest and providing a guide for conduct in county matters, the PAC hopes to promote the faith and confidence of the citizens of the county in their government. Updated 12/2017. Thank you.
Thank you,
Peggy.
Peggy.
Hello, I'm Julianne Gale. I'm living in Trails End right now. And I was just wanted to make a request on the comp plan schedule, and maybe I'll also email Kirsten so she hears it too. But I feel like housing is going to be one of the most contentious chapters because it's such a big issue in our community, both the affordable housing piece and disagreements about where things go and all of that. And Mason County Climate Justice and the Cedar Stewards of Mason County are planning to launch an affordable housing survey to try to get much more input in how do we solve some of the housing challenges that we're having and come to a shared vision with many, many people in the community, including people who haven't yet had a chance to participate. We want time to be able to translate the survey into other languages, as well as get results, or maybe even hold focus groups with people who can't do online surveys and that sort of thing. And so right now it's scheduled that in mid-December, there's going to be homework on the housing element. And then on January 13th is when like the vote happens on the housing chapter. And one of the things that the city of Shelton is doing is they're starting with like smaller, easier chapters so that they can practice the process and knock them out, and then later on move to some of the more complicated things. And so my request is that maybe we could trade housing with a simpler chapter so that we have more time to gather really good public input on housing and analyze the data and then make a thoughtful presentation to us. Thank you.
All right, seeing no more public comment, we're gonna go on to the workshop. Take it away, staff.
I'm out of camera range. A good thing.
So you all have chapter 1 and chapter 2. Chapter 1 is the introduction. And chapter 2 is currently called the community profile vision. And the community profile, we had meetings earlier in the year, that information was provided then, so that's just, it's pretty duplicative of what was presented earlier in the year. The consultant may be getting some additional information from the consultant for that profile. And some of the information in that community profile may be more appropriate for other chapters rather than chapters. These two are chapters, they're very draft. Like I said, there was a very short turnaround time between the two meetings. So today, the goal is just to go briefly over the layout of the introduction, chapter 1, and get thoughts from the PAC and the public items that may be helpful for including in the introduction. And the other thing I wanted to talk about when we were going through the CPPs and when the vision statement was in the CPPs, there was it didn't seem like too many people were happy with the vision statement as it currently is. So I would like to look at that again because we're looking at using that out with CPPs. And we're going to incorporate it here in chapter 2. Let's look at it again and let's talk about what we don't like about it or what we think how the vision is changing. So chapter 1, the consultant provided this to me. First section, I'm just going to go down the book real quick and then we'll look at it in a little bit more detail. about the comprehensive plan, scope and organization. She didn't have anything in there, yet. Scope is obviously, we'll be looking at, the scope that we gave our consultant, the work plan, and filling some of that information in. Planning framework, it's gonna be the requirements that we have to be safe. Our community intent, which, you know, we're getting a lot of that through our public comment. And then our relationship to other local planning documents. The planning process, our existing plan background, which I will be filling in some of that information, but the consultant doesn't have all that information on hand readily, so looking back at the history of the comp plan and filling in some of that information. The county actually had a comp plan all the way back to 1970, so even before the Growth Management Act in 1990, they had a comp plan. Just not, you know, according to growth management standards. So we did have a comp plan all the way back from 1970. And then, of course, GMA in 1990, and then we had our first big plan in 1996. Several revisions in 98, 2000, 2002, 2003, pretty much. That first plan, according to GMA, was, I take it a learning process for the county. Then our next big update was in 2005, and we had, there's various little updates in like 2006 and 7, 8. And then we had our next bigger update in 2017. And now here we're on 2025. But we did have some version of the plan all the way back to 1970 in the county. And so I will be helping the consultant to fill in some of that information. I go back and look through our documentation. So, and then plan update process, so roles and responsibilities, providing information on what's our community involvement, the role of the planning commission, and that should be role of the county commissioners, not city council. Obviously, they use this outline for other jurisdictions as well. So, then with the state review process, how do we get comp plan appealed, and how, so the amendment process. So the consultant talked about this in the last meeting that, you know, we're having this periodic update, but there is a way to request amendment to the comp plan, and we can do that once a year. And then plan implementation is going to be our zoning code, how are we implementing our zoning code and subdivision code, and some information on other implementation tools, which, like I said, a lot of that information is not in there yet. Haven't had a lot of time to input that in there. So hopefully everybody's got a chance to read this. There's some information in the about comprehensive plan section. It's talking about GMA and its origination in 1990, and what it outlines are our goals that guide development for the comp plan. And there is a mistake there. It says 14, it's actually 15. So shoreline master plan is not 15 points there at the bottom. So like I said, have some sections to fill in here. She did bring over some information from the countywide planning policy that we are implementing. And that's just showing how the chapters are related to our regulations and different implementation. And we have seen that table before. planning process, so that existing plan background, which I will start, helping fill in. And if any of our PAC members have any interesting information, if they've been around for a while and have some information that they want to provide, that's great too, or any of our members from the public who's been around and know about that process. And then roles and responsibility, which, I think, we have some public here that may have some comments on, what they think that looks like, community involvement and the PAC for the role of the planning commission. And again, it should be role of the planning commission as well. And then our plan implementation section, is to be filled in. So there's not much there yet. But I'm gonna leave it open for the PAC if they have any initial comments or, vision on the guidance for this chapter. And whether they want to take some of them.
We'll start.
Take it away, Jeff.
Let's start with simple stuff. When these documents are coming, this set of documents is being provided to us. There's some kind of formatting error going on because I'm getting sentences crammed all together. Like one big line,
There's spacing issues with lettering.
right.
So that's probably a format issue. It's probably not a big deal, but yes, it's one of those admins that need to be caught down the road.
Like under section 1.3.1, the 1, 2, 3, the fourth paragraph, which starts off number 1, it just like guide, and it's like all crammed together.
I wonder if it's the font they're using, because I've had some issues with the font the consultant was using when I
Right.
imported it into mine, and I'm wondering if other people are having that. Did you open it in Word?
Yes,
Okay, so that might be the issue. Okay.
I believe it did. I'm sure whatever file was sent to, I opened in that file. Okay. If going forward, if all these documents can have page numbers, so that I can cross-reference and what have you, because communicating with blank pages. I mean, this is the entry stuff, but I've just things that'll make it easier for communication. I have a question on the division between the determination between capital facilities and like utilities. What I mean, I know what utilities are, I know what capital facilities are, but in some of the capital facility stuff, it's kind of been merged into the utility stuff. So how we planning to go forward there? Okay, I just have a concern that we're consistent, I don't have a problem calling one thing, XYZ versus another, it's just being consistent. Just a second. I mean, there's other questions that come up, but those are, I mean, the easy ones that need to be worked out to make this whole communication between the public and us members just cleaner. I also noticed there was like in what do you call it, the section 1.3.3, that in the different comp plan chapters, there was no chapter 6 that showed up. Now that's that transportation. And I don't, I understand why the sequence might not be there, but it's nowhere within the whole list. So I'm just curious, was that intended or not intended? Let's stop there and I'll let others go.
Do you have anything more about?
I have to read it back through and
Okay.
think it through, because some of my comments are cryptic to me. the hurriness of getting it down. Go ahead.
Well,
Um. Okay. In section 1.3.1 has a lot of state regulatory requirements. And it always references throughout the state. Should we state throughout the county, since we are focusing on the county? I understand these are state level requirements, but we might want to specify where our focus is the county, not the state. On item 14 under 3.13, where it says respond to the challenges of climate impact and plan for resiliency, I would suggest adding within the planning period. And that is one of the recommendations from the University of Washington climate resiliency mapping tool is work within the planning period. At some point, again, this feeds back to other discussions, but we need a standard on what we are planning for. And that would be one bounding condition. Under community intent, I would recommend listing assumptions and bounding conditions. Okay, so now I'm going to cross-reference in chapter 2, where we talk about, what is the county? We have really a great first 21 pages to talk about sort of our history, what we are and outlay. And then on page in section 4, it starts findings and conclusions. Okay, and I should say also in section 3 is population projection. The population projection is still stating that we'll grow somewhere between 1.7 and 46% in the next 26 years. So we'll grow from somewhere around nothing to 50%. And we have no stated objective of what we're going to plan for. So I would suggest under findings, we add a statement such as, or under in introduction, community intent, we add bounding conditions such as the comp plan and all aspects, housing, transportation, utilities, etc., will be based on mid-range population estimates from the Department of Commerce, i.e. Mason County will be about 81.5 in 2050. Okay, but something that defines what our target set is. Otherwise, we're planning somewhere between no growth and 50% growth. I would suggest that we consider identifying what the standard is for climate resiliency. My example is the University of Washington climate mapping for resilient Washington, only because that was discussed here. There are others out there. We need to make a comment, in my opinion, to address outdated subplans. Parks and Recreation is one. We commented, we have an effort in the county to purchase a significant piece of land on the south end of Mason Lake, at least a study to examine that. And that's nowhere in our PROS plan. So when will these subplans be revised, updated, and approved? I would recommend within 1 year of the adoption of the comprehensive plan. I think we need to coordinate all of this with all utility providers, electric, water, sewer, natural gas, and that they will basically sign the comp plan indicating concurrence and the ability to support the plan. And this includes electric providers to increase any production and distribution of electrical to meet environmental considerations. That is conversion and removal of all natural gas and an increase in electric vehicles. That's a starting point.
I think I just heard about one or more motions.
My motion, my recommendation, I'm happy to put it in a motion, is to consider listing the assumptions and bounding conditions. I provide examples simply as a starting point. That is not comprehensive, nor necessarily are those the right ones.
I also heard something about standards.
Yep. Yeah, and that was embedded in here, and that's a topic we've had since February. Okay, so that's that. Let's see. I guess I would simply make the observation, I really look forward to reading the community involvement. We have had public testimony. We have had discussions within the PAC over the last 6 months. The community involvement has been less than anticipated. And my concern is we are moving and making many decisions with generally a small group of folks. And are we truly representative of the community? You know, I'm not questioning our judgment. I'm just saying, do we have all the things we need to think about out there?
I personally don't think we do. The reason there's small involvement, I don't think a lot of people out living their lives, I don't think, many probably don't even know this is going on. And in my opinion, we go out and find out, if this is what's going on, what do you guys think? That's my opinion. The other thing is, maybe I'm missing something. I don't think there was ever a statement, let's plan for the low population estimate and the high population estimate.
Correct.
I think there is a population mid estimate. Is that?
I'm reading what was sent to us, and the population forecast in chapter 2, Mason County Community Profile, is that chart, which has a high and low line, and I don't see the planning number in there. And I'm not, again, I'm tossing out median.
We've had discussion on that particular chart too.
Yeah, I know, I'm just,
We've talked about it. Any projection is going to be wrong, but you need some kind of
well, right.
projection in order to have something to talk about. And I'm seeing like the SGA stuff, and they're they've got a mid. I don't know. I agree. If it's something has to be in there, let's pick a midpoint projection and use it.
I'm throwing it out there as an idea. I'm just saying we need the target, saying we're gonna plan for between what we have and 50% more. Probably isn't gonna.
Guys, we need to stick with the intro.
At one of our meetings.
Then,
The mid projection, now that community profile was done before we picked that, so.
Okay.
There's be some information missing from that community profile that. was
Okay. I think we need to review the findings. They don't appear to be updated. There's references to 2036, not 46. There's a few others. I would recommend breaking out findings and conclusions to paragraph 4.1 findings, paragraph 4.2 conclusions, and state assumptions in there too. Because we go through a number of things. It's like we say, hey, zoning is adequate to handle the growth. So basically, changes to current zoning are not required based upon the way this reads.
So just out of curiosity on this, so this is back, so you're on the community profile, right? And we basically adopted or worked through this a while back, a meeting or two back. The one thing I see that's different than what we worked through is there's findings and conclusions. Personally, I'm having trouble agreeing with the findings and conclusions. Now, I can work with the data and what have you, but let me put it this way. At the best, people are looking at data and making findings and conclusions. And the problem is, when you look at it, in my mind, it doesn't match up. And part of that problem is that we have data, but there's a whole bunch of assumptions made, like a whole sub-chapter of assumptions that allow you to create these findings and conclusions. And we're blind, or at least I'm blind to how we got there. For example, I'll give you a technical. How does the county take like rural residential 5? Or like there's a chart back here. Just hold a second, please. So like there's this figure 21. We have these rural lands. And to me, that needs a little refining because it says, okay, you got 387,000 acres. Well, is a big chunk of that forest? It's not even developable. I mean, it gives, in other words, in this conclusion and assumption that they say you got more than enough land, given the current zoning and all this. We got these weird divisions. We have these zones, but then we have these like rural lands. Is rural lands made up of R5, 10, 20 and something else? But, okay, that's background. That I can't tell looking at this.
Yes, if you look at the future land use map, rural lands would be all your rural residential, rural commercial and rural industrial lands.
Right.
Separate from long-term commercial forest, ag lands and mineral lands. And urban growth areas.
Okay,
And for the national forest and.
okay, but my point is it would be nice to have that kind of paragraph to say, or to whatever it is, that at least summarizes that. Enough to give us, the average person, including myself, an idea where we're coming from.
Yes.
Because, okay,
So you want a clarifying text of some sort,
well, I mean,
or
like,
introductory?
I don't know, but I'm just saying, like, figure 21. In ours, it comes back into this findings and conclusions. If you look at the findings and conclusions, you're asking yourself, well, how did you get there? So then you start looking back for your other preceding pages. And I'm struggling to see how we got there. I don't want to have them, any party here create how their thinking was. I'm just saying, assumption was made, here's what we counted as this is how we got to that thing. And the reason I kind of keep going down this is I maintain there might be, we keep saying there's enough land to do different things. And yet, I started looking at sections and just going down through, taking a couple sections at a time and going through the parcels. There's like, it's in all R5, but there's only 14 left idle parcels that aren't built in that section. And I'm not sure, and then I start looking at examples, like we zone, like take our mines. Our mines are at least three different zoning classifications. Just the 5 around here are under 3 different zoning classifications. So and one of them's R5. So is that R5 count as buildable lands towards housing when it's, really a gravel mine?
And the housing density is the goal of growth management.
Yes.
Is keep your density in the urban growth areas.
Yes.
And so when you look at the Shelton, Allen and Belfair and their land capacity and density standards, that alone meets your population density, and then whatever undeveloped lots you have in your rural zone. I mean, that's private property that we're not putting any more density to what is already allowed. So your minimum is the 1 in 5 acres. R5, R10 and R20. We're not creating more of that.
And yet, with our UGAs in the county portion, not the city, we've only created 3 plats in the last 5 years.
We can't.
No, I get that. I understand we can't do certain things. That's not what I'm arguing. I'm arguing how you're planning for growth in these UGAs. City, fine, that's a separate thing, but the county controlled part of the UGAs, you're targeting in growth, and yet, in the last 5 years, last 10 years, you've only had a limited number of new plats come in, very limited.
Well, we have zero control over what comes here. If we anticipate a growth rate over the next 20 years.
Right.
That we already know we can't. It'll be a miracle if we guess correctly, but you can.
No, I get that.
And get to a particular number. And then you look at your density allowances within the zonings of your urban growth areas where you have you're supposed to provide the infrastructure for that growth. And that we have more than enough. Now, that doesn't mean that people are gonna come here. We can't require
Oh,
developers to.
they come here, but they go on the R5s and 10s.
I mean, we have very little control over any of that.
Sure.
Because the county doesn't own the property and all we can do is.
Yeah, no, I get
is
that.
Permit proposed
I,
stuff if it's allowed within the zones.
so all you're saying is, at least with the population allocations that are given, the population forecast, and then allocating across the 3 UGAs, within the UGAs, you can make it fit.
We have more than enough
Sure.
undeveloped property within the county to support more than the 20 years of growth.
Within the UGAs.
And when you can't, you just increase your densities in the urban growth areas.
Or you say no.
I don't see that happening in my particular life.
Yeah. Okay, I'm still struggling with, but I understand what you're saying. I just not need to grind through it and think about it, what you're saying, and see what new thoughts come to mind. I'll leave it at that. Thank you. I don't know that answered it, where I was going, but I guess the bottom line is, there's findings and conclusions I'm struggling with. I'll leave it at that.
I agree, as drafted, I think there's some refinement we need to be doing.
Question, like when they're using these figures in housing, are they counting the city too at the same time? It looks like it to me.
In our countywide, like in planning with the city, we do.
Like the occupancy.
Share, so the city gets a share of the property, of the density. Or sorry.
No, let me
The
stop.
city gets the county has an overall population
Yeah,
growth.
right.
The city gets a portion of
Right.
that, and then the county takes the rest of it, but we've also allocated within Allen, Belfair, and the Sheldon urban growth area.
Got that. But then like on would be page 15, but figure 12 and figure 13. When the different units you reference in there, is that when you say Mason County, is that just the UGAs that Mason County controls, not the city? Like in figure 12?
Which figure again?
12? Yeah, I think that's the whole county. We're very close. So it's like, so it says like occupied and vacant, like in 2021. Occupied 25,000 some odd, vacant 8,000 some odd, 33,000 total. Is that city and county? Or county? I guess without worrying about the answer to that at the moment, what I'd recommend is that when we build these charts, that we keep our definitions clear and how we assign numbers. In other words, because there's this constant thing of jumping between like a total county number, which this looks close, to separating the city from the rest. And it always is confusing. Some of the past comp plans is very confusing as to when you were talking just the city of Shelton or the city and the UGA of Shelton. And all I'm saying is we need to get boundaries around that to know where we are. At this moment, I'll just assume that's, yeah, the whole county, city included, but it seems weird that we would be including that, in our comp plan. But that's okay for now. Duly noted, I guess. Okay, moving on. Go ahead.
I would. I don't know if so I went through the chapter 1 citizens guide from 10 years ago, and I look forward to seeing an updated version of this. I would suggest that we when we go through this, we clarify, so if someone picks this up, they don't make assumptions. Like when I read this, it says, hey, it talks about building infrastructure, water, mains, roads, schools, fire services, and those certainly are incorporated as part of that, but those are not counted, the schools and the fire. And we probably ought to somehow separate to where people understand the county is not responsible for fire, that their fire districts are. Not that we don't need to work together, lest they get confused in how the government comes together. I really liked the vision. And then the next, I'll call it 4 pages of text over about 10 pages with graphics. I suggest we get something like this to the Board of Commissioners quickly, and get them to say, yes, that's what I want you to go do. Because I am reading some of this and, from 10 years ago, some of this is just interesting. Mason County is a safe place to live and work. It talks about, some really great numbers on low reported violent crime. Yet, as I've listened to many different discussions over the last year, the very low law enforcement to population ratio is a very significant concern, and public safety is a real concern to our populace. So some of this seems outdated, but again, we need to just find the facts and get them in there. The comment, traffic congestion is rare unless you're in Belfair at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock.
It's pretty busy when I came here at 5:30.
Yeah.
Elton.
This is just an interesting comment. I urge the PAC and all community members to think about unintended consequences of words. So 10 years ago, we wrote, housing needs continue to shift with the changing population in Mason County. The rental market is expected to continue to increase with internet rental providers, VRBO, Airbnb, etc. Demands continue for an increase in a wider range of housing options. So 10 years ago, we acknowledged in this plan the whole discussion of STRs. And today, as we wrestled earlier, this evening, there's some unintended consequences. And I never expect to get them all, but as we do certain things, what are some of those potential unintended consequences? Because we do have some new things we're starting to consider, some tough topics we're trying to consider. So what are those potential unintended consequences?
I could talk about the schools and utilities and all that. Yeah, true, that's not directly, county doesn't directly affect it, but I think some of the stuff we do will indirectly impact those.
Absolutely.
And you're right,
Mhm.
maybe they should be separated out, but I'm only not suggesting that, but yeah, it should absolutely be part of that. And this is what the utilities or whoever in schools think will happen as a result of what is decided and, the county is doing.
Yeah, my intent is not to exclude them at all.
No, I didn't.
Absolutely need
I
to
didn't think
include
that.
it.
I'm just saying.
But it's an opportunity with the addition of a sentence or two to help communicate to someone in basically 4 pages of reading some really nice pictures and graphs that this is more complicated than, well, I'm just going to run to the county and get the answer. Well, no, it's the county, the school district, the fire district, a PUD here, somebody else over here, and it's more complicated.
Well, they're operating independently.
Yeah, I mean, so
Yeah.
many of our citizens and residents, I think, aren't aware of how complicated this situation is, how many different, governmental agencies are coming together. And this is literally in 10 pages, 4 pages of text, a great opportunity in a few sentences just to explain how involved it is. That is
Well, it's-
not easy. I mean,
As an intro, you need to open things up a little bit.
Yeah.
But not to any great detail.
No, I'm trying to keep it high level, but
Right.
when I read the county and then we list schools and fire, I go, Because I know we don't control them. We are partners with them, absolutely.
I mean, they are independent entities, but what the county does impact them.
That is what
In
they
my
do
opinion,
impacts us.
somewhere in there, this is what we're suggesting, how's that gonna affect them?
They're supposed to have
Which maybe should-
coordination, yeah.
Which maybe should come from them, which maybe we're intending to do anyway, I don't know.
We haven't heard from Brad.
Yeah, I got nothing to add.
Okay.
I think we had on the agenda, fourth bullet, is, third bullet rather, of the workshop, public comment. Let's give the people in the room a chance to speak.
I got a question though, going back to the other, I think it's the overall scope plan that we were looking at, 1.3.1. That item number 15. It states managed shorelines of the state. Just wondering if that needs to be defined a little bit better.
Within Mason County.
Right, so
Right.
I mean, cause it kind of sounds like the county's managing all the shorelines of the state. Which seems like a little bit,
Well, I
Yeah.
mean, we're talking about
Aggressive.
Mason County, but I hear what you're saying.
yeah, I mean, we can assume.
You
it's
want
that.
to put some constraints on
Yeah.
what that bullet really is.
That whole section, Mike, is, it's listing those are the 14 statutory goals. As identified the state legislation, the word state is throughout it.
Okay.
It's encouraged economic
The
development
context.
throughout the state, manage the shoreline throughout the state, enhance, protect the environment and enhance the state's quality of life. And yeah,
In the context, it is correct.
I would replace the word state with county.
Which is what you mentioned
Yep.
earlier.
Absolutely.
I mean, you actually, you guys are saying the same thing.
Yeah.
So if
I
we,
agree with it.
if you either change it from state to county or put a big caveat saying this is the county of Mason only, or something like that.
Yeah.
Chris.
I have three things related to finance inclusion, which I think should be included or somehow included. One is that this county has a very high percentage ownership of homes compared to any other county in the state, meaning people that actually own their homes versus that don't. I think that, demographic needs to be, or at least some part in the conclusion, findings and conclusions. An area that I'm having a little trouble with, the second to the last one, about 44.5% of renter households. We're missing a part in here in that, for example, census, US Census data shows that this county has 13.4% of disability in working age adults, which is higher than most. And so that those types of things, disabilities can affect rents, people's capacity to pay rents, people or buy homes or what have you. So I think there needs to be at least acknowledgement that in this county, we have a higher percentage of, disabled people, and that's gonna adjust, in my mind, something, some of the attributes we look in the comp plan potentially. And then final thing, we picked this, what we predict for the growth or what we think the growth is. I'd like to see a statement at least saying, okay, the last 10 years were this. So in other words, for example, in the past, we've always picked what's going to be high, low, medium, or what have you, and always been doing that. I think in the findings, you need to know when you're picking a number, again, part of the background of picking numbers is where have you been?
What the actuals are.
Right.
Or have been.
I'm not saying that's what's going to happen in the future, just giving some context is what's going on, because, I read things coming down the pike that say, like, beyond this planning time frame, like in 2060, this country's population, as well as many countries' population, the growth rate's going to drop. there's a peak population in the world, it's actually gonna be probably 2060, 2062. And then, believe it or not, and it sounds alien to our way of coming up
No,
to,
that's,
but I mean, those are factors. And all I'm saying is if we kind of keep looking at these things, what's happened in the past, what's going in the, what we think of the future, it can help the next generation of PAC members at least have, you know, and staff and what have you, see where we've come from and maybe temper and adjust, you know, where, future growth.
I've seen like some projection, when I talked to Kel about it, they do show what's happened in the past. And then from there do a projection.
But it's not,
And I understood,
it's not in the findings and
it's in the
conclusions.
graph.
okay,
So,
but all I'm saying is information is there or has been presented. Maybe maybe it should be put in there, but maybe they're planning to do that. I don't know. But and I talked to Kel about it, and Marissa gave me some links to the state and all that where I could find out some of the wonky details, and I'm convinced that the mid-range projection is adequate. I had another question. We talked about this last time I was here. Like the so-called graphics, not so-called, the graphics show the Alice, which in my brain means people that aren't that well off financially. Much higher percentage in the city than the county. And yet in the city, some of the projections show more housing being created in the city. And my observation was, well, that seems inconsistent, but then a good point was made. Well, the houses in the city are not as expensive as the ones out in the county. Although upon reflecting after the meeting, it's like, maybe I'm wrong, but my perception is even modest houses, like modular houses are like 250 to 300. Are those within reach of the high percentage of people that are challenged financially in the city? It's just a question.
Mhm.
Even though the house might be cheap, I go out in the county, you get, if 500,000 houses and 2.5 million, but in the city, even the more modest houses, I'm not sure they're going to be within the reach of most of the population. It's just a question.
Well, we need to remember to stick with the intro. Is what we're talking about. You do bring up a good point, though. What is the definition?
This is part of the intro, right?
I know.
So you have a graphic called income and wages, that page. Or I thought we were looking at the community profile. Am I talking out of school?
No, community profile includes, income levels and.
So there's one called income and wages from like 2010 to 2021. I assume that's not adjusted for inflation or anything. Those are like the actual dollar amounts at the time.
Yeah, when you're talking housing, unfortunately, it's far more complicated in the sense that, with a mortgage today is 7%. Okay, and our median household income is 66,325 according to this, call it 70,000, pick a number. Okay, and it's to address housing and affordability is going to be, 4 years ago, a medium house was 330,000, and interest rates were a little below 3%. If I had 70,000 as my household, I could qualify. Today, that same house is 430, but interest rates are 7. I need 140,000 change to qualify. And until interest rates drop, or until we can increase wages, until we can somehow figure out, and there's a lot of smart people out there trying to do this, and they've not been successful, how to build a house by paying less for materials, have fewer code requirements, and pay less for labor, which goes against so many things. I don't know how you build a house cheaper. I mean, the other idea that has been presented is you simply have public housing. You tax the people and you build public housing. But those are ideas that have been surfaced in this room. Ideas have been floated to this board. I'm not advocating for or against anything. I'm simply stating that, if you're making $70,000 in this community today with a current interest rate and the idea that you don't pay more than 30% for your home, including all utilities, that includes internet, your home loan can't be above 200K, 150K at 7%, and you're making 70%. And that doesn't even factor in the idea that, are you feeding 1 or 6 mouths? I don't know. I don't know what your household looks like. It's far more complicated, and, we are not going to solve that issue.
And we still need to continue going what we were working on.
Yeah.
Jeff, have you any more?
Not at this point.
Okay. Mike?
But that is to my point. I mean, people say it's not just the absolute value of the house. It's really, when you're talking about affordability, so how much do you have to pay monthly? And that's a big function of interest rates, which we have no control. And my comment on the wages and income thing, it looks like if you just look at the graph, like wages and income are going up. Well, just for inflation, probably lower. I haven't done the calculation, but to my point, I think that's in here. They talk about, I think there's a chart showing, I mean, how much housing we're going to develop in Shelton versus the county, which seems to me inconsistent with income levels in the other parts of the report. Just an observation. I'm done.
Okay, so hearing no more comments from the commission, let's hear it from the public.
I have a question.
And there's the podium.
Yeah. One over there. My name's Karen Rice. I live in Shelton, and I just had a question. Earlier, it was brought up that you wanted more input from the public. And I remember that you had the survey. And I also remember a few meetings back that there was some discussion about expanding the survey or sending it out again to get more input. I know it was also the results of the survey were showing there was definitely interest in affordable housing and climate change preparedness. And I just wondered if you're planning, what your plans are for getting more input. I know you see the same old faces, but if the survey definitely sparked a lot of people's awareness of what you're doing and their interest in what you're doing. Do you want more input? Do you want another survey?
Well, I know we have some groups here too that are putting out their own, they have their own public engagement grants to get additional input on the housing and the climate. And other issues of the comp plan. So
Okay.
that is one way that we're getting more input through survey.
Okay.
I personally do think, in my opinion, some form of the survey should go out to the entire community. We have an excellent staff. They're the pros. They know a lot of the details and stuff. But high level, what do we want the county to be? What are our aspirations? What are the characteristics? We need to hear from the community on that. It's in my opinion, it's their call, not some, private cabal star chamber or whatever, making up those types of decisions. That's my opinion.
So if I may, in sending out a survey, there's, staff did a great job on the STR one. We had very good response, had 1,500, 3,000, whatever it was, responses. The other comment was that came at a price tag because it was a personal postcard to, very specific set of our residents that lived along the shoreline, those that were were expected were STR members. So as we try and engage the community, if the opportunity is presented and the community doesn't engage, do we then need to find another engagement opportunity? And that's sort of I'm just gonna leave that sort of open-ended, because when we talked up front, 6, 8 months ago or more, there was words to the effect of, hey, we're gonna be involved in community events, like Forest Fest or whatever. And some of those have come and gone, and those opportunities, those opportunities weren't taken advantage of. The other thing I would just suggest on the survey, let's be very cautious about how you write a survey. I took the recent, the survey that's out there, and let's just say that some of the answers I wanted to give, those solutions weren't provided. I couldn't put an X in a box. I was sort of forced down a certain response pattern. And so is that truly collecting the intent of our community, or is that collecting the intent of our community based upon how the survey writers wrote it?
And we have a timeline of getting specific items completed with an end goal.
Which is,
So I do think there should be some kind of effort, and yeah, maybe the survey can be improved. I do want to make a comment though, because I heard the comment that, very low participation in the private survey, like 125, whatever. My opinion is because people didn't know it. If we send it out to the community, we don't know that people aren't going to engage. But the argument was made, well, that's not representative. Well, it is representative of a particular cohort, which is people that are plugged into the county, care about the county, have learned a lot about the county. In my opinion, that information is valuable, even though it's not a large sample size. And I think that should be included in whatever documentation we've got, my opinion.
Anyway, do we have more from the community?
At the last meeting that I couldn't hear very well, I thought I heard you guys say something about taking the vision statement and moving it or putting it somewhere. Kind of wondering where it went, and I'm wondering, I read it, I think it's really lovely, but I think it could be even better. So is that your job here to tweak that vision statement and make it sound more modern? Or, more in with what we're doing at the times?
I think it's our job to get input with people. When you say that, if people have ideas of what that vision statement we'd like to hear.
So when do you talk about that?
First of all, public can testify, in each of these meetings, and we can get the material. Well, but
That was something I was gonna bring up.
who's going to rewrite this one?
There we go, with Marissa.
Go ahead, what's that?
You were.
I do have the vision statement that I was gonna bring up, and we can get comment on that too tonight as well. But we can go ahead and finish our comment on the rest of it.
Okay.
Hello, it's Julianne Gale. I wanted to make sure that in the chart in chapter 1, that all of the edits that we agreed to make it into chapter 1. For example, in the number 11, public participation, we agreed that we were striking the word citizens and replacing it with widespread involvement, and that isn't reflected yet, but I look forward to it being reflected. Number 2, with the community profile, I have a strong request for a disaggregation of data. There's so much that is the average of Mason County that gives you a real false picture of what's going on here. Just to give one tiny example, there's a line in chapter 2 that says that the Latino population in Mason County is less overall than the state. That is really misrepresenting things because we have a huge range in the county. In the Lake Cushman area, it's about 2% Latino, and in downtown Shelton, it's 30%. And so a recommendation that I have for how to address the big ranges of differences within our county is to include maps or data ranges so that any average is put in context. And I brought up the Latino example because we have the largest per capita population of Guatemalans anywhere in the United States here in our county, in Shelton. So if we're not including those voices and we're not having any documents in Spanish and Conjobal and MOM and oral focus groups of that community, then we're not really actually doing widespread community involvement. And I'm hoping that we can have more language accessibility, both at these meetings and in the documents. And I believe that there was some mention of that in earlier in the contracts and things, so I'd love to see that come to fruition. I also wanted to address your point, Will, about addressing climate resiliency within the planning period. I would agree that we should take actions within the planning period, but those actions need to reflect beyond the planning period. The way that climate change works, if we dropped all of our CO2 emissions to zero right now, we would still have an increase in temperatures globally for the next 100 years, because that's how long it takes the effects to be seen. So if in the next 20 years, we only deal with the impacts for the next 20 years, we're really, forgive my language, screwing over the next generation. And I don't want to see that happen. And then the point about high home ownership, I just also wanted to point out that we also have really high mobile home ownership. We have a higher percentage of mobile homes in Mason County. And in many cases that comes with not owning the land that the home is on. So people are both homeowners and renters. And so that's something for us to consider. Sorry, I forgot to say one thing about the climate resiliency actions within the planning period. I think that's something that the climate policy action team can really help with. And then when we're talking about housing affordability, I don't want us to leave out the renters and thinking about renters in our community. And then there's building new housing, and there's also converting housing, like converting buildings that already exist or fixing up buildings that are falling apart, which is a lot cheaper than building new. And there's also maintaining housing so that housing can stay, people can stay housed longer and housing can stay in good shape longer. Thank you.
Thank you, Julia.
Perfect.
Might be time for me. So my name is Peggy Morrell. I still live in Union. I was kind of surprised at the last meeting how quickly the vision statement was pulled from the CPPs. Cal did such a good job defining the CPPs as kind of a high-level overview of all the planning policies. And to be clear, a vision statement is where we want to be in 10 years. Planning policies are how we get there. So it seemed to me a pretty good place for it. But it's important to name why a vision statement is so important, because Randy, to your point, the vision statement reflects the values and the priorities of the community. So of course, the public has to be involved. And the current one in there that people have different opinions about is from 2015. It's 10 years old. So I don't imagine much of any of that, except maybe the framework would remain. And I'm just a little baffled at everyone talking about how we get more input. We have a public participation plan. It's all in here. And these are activities that take place outside of this chamber. You don't even have to be involved. It's from your consultant, public participation plan, comprehensive plan update. It includes orientation interviews, which did happen back in February, a questionnaire, which I'm assuming is the survey, public workshops, defined as 2 public workshops to support engagement. The first will be an informational meeting with a presentation of the draft vision, and we'll invite community members to provide feedback and offer suggestions. A studio series, a rollout open house. It's all here. It just, as I've said before, it just needs to be implemented. So I think this is how we get our vision statement. And excuse me, and I know this is going I know this is going to the county commissioners in December. Is that right, or January 16th? But we need to take time with the vision statement, and my recommendation is that we get the participation plan going again. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Katie Ross and I live in Shelton. I'm kind of following up on her statement about the participation, the public participation. I just have a question. How and where are these surveys being put out for the public currently? Because as a resident of the county, I never saw anything. And so if it's not getting out to the average resident in the county, then how are we going to be able to hear from people that want input, like want to have input and want to tell their like experience? And I think that like accessibility of those surveys might possibly be lacking if you aren't seeing a high response from people, because we do live in a county where people are being affected by housing affordability, they're being affected by climate, all of these things that are being talked about tonight, they're being affected by. And I don't think that it's a lack of people wanting to give or not wanting to give feedback. I think it's a lack of accessibility. So I'd love to know how it is getting put out. Someone mentioned the forest festival, but I don't have any knowledge of how that was experienced. That's my question.
Thank you. Online.
So we've gone through everybody here. How about online? Do we have comments from people online?
Just another second, but I'm not seeing anyone. One's raising their hand.
Okay, I guess we're not gonna get any comments from people online. So with that said, Marissa, you wanted to,
The next thing was looking at our vision statement.
Can I add one thing I forgot to say? Sorry. I just had a question about the findings and conclusions that says that Mason County has a higher median age than Washington State, which could be a result of the high household income levels and other positive social determinants of health. That seems like a copy paste error maybe, because most of Mason County is lower than average in terms of income levels. And we have high rates of poverty here. So I just wanted to maybe get that adjusted. Thank you.
okay, Marissa?
Can we make comments on some of the comments? Sorry.
Well, okay, what is your comment on the comment?
Planning period. Totally agree. And last meeting, using the, UW climate resilience web tool, I looked at sea level rise and looked at the 6 different scenarios, using the worst case CO2 emissions. Okay. In Shelton, we have somewhere between 4 inches and 58 inches of sea rise. Okay. And I agree, those are 2 big different numbers, but what do you plan for? And that's why, again, what's the standard is absolutely key. Do you plan for the planning period? Or do you plan for the worst case? Recognizing, this tool, again, one of many tools, not advocating for this tool, simply using it as a basis. It openly states they feel pretty good about the numbers through 2050. After 2050, the latter half of the century, There's a lot of variability, and we've talked openly in this about best science, changes occurring and et cetera. So as we start to think about making those types of decisions, you know, whether that be we, the PAC, or we, the Board of Commissioners, or the state, or anyone else, what are the unintended consequences? And it openly discusses that, particularly if we have to respond to call it a 5-foot sea rise in the next 70 years. Yeah, no, absolutely, Bob. 5 foot. We have to move roads, folks. You know, and so there's some huge issues. You know, there are, you know, buildings that will be either behind a break wall or underwater. I mean, there's so that
Also
whole
got water
planning.
table
Yeah,
issues.
lots of issues. So the whole planning period is very important. Do you plan for the period or do you, you know, and again, what are the standards? Public participation. Thank you, Peggy, for bringing up the plan. You know, and that plan has been out there for 6, 8, 10 months, and we have missed opportunity one after another. And we keep looking at the PAC, what are you going to go do? My understanding is it's within the scope of SCJ Alliance or our contractor. And if not, if it's our responsibility, then fine, then we need to know that and we need to take action to go do that. But my understanding is it's within the contractor scope. And then I guess, and Kel, I'm sort of looking at you on the languages comments. I mean, we listed beyond English 3 other languages. One I'll have to go look up what the Guatemalan language is. Okay. But is there an expectation that we provide PAC environments multilingual and that the comp plan is multilingual or not? And we may not have the answer tonight, but we probably ought to try and answer that, because if we have to address every language in this county, hang on, folks, it's got harder. I don't know how to do it.
That would be up to the commissioners.
Yes. One other thought I like, and there's a lot of ways to slice and dice data. And one very sensitive topic that we need to potentially consider is that what is our population? That is, you know, I'm going to use some terms that people may not like. I will try and provide neutral terms in there, but how many are here legally or illegally? How many here are naturally or displaced individuals or residents? And that may be a consideration here. And, you know, given what we saw, we have obviously a change in our leadership back in DC, and that may change some of the climate with regards to the southern border. We've seen it flip-flop here over the last dozen years, some very differing perspectives, depending upon who's back in the White House. And I'm not advocating for or against the sitting, prior, or future president. I'm simply acknowledging there are changes. And I don't predict any of those. But these are considerations, particularly with regards to all of our population data is largely driven by census data. And if I'm not here legally, if I'm a displaced individual or whatever the other appropriate correct terms are, and I get a census notice in my mailbox, am I really going to respond to it? And I mean, we got some individuals in the back shaking their head back and forth, not up and down. And so our numbers may be understated, and particularly in certain communities, you know, whether I'm thinking, you know, racially based, but again, I'll leave that open-ended for others. I'm trying to, you know, remain neutral, but I am trying to put a very tough topic on the table, particularly given, you know, the changes in the last 6 years back in DC and what it may mean to the southern border.
Anyway, how about now, Marissa?
Can we fire?
No, I want to hear from
So I
Marissa.
do want to I do want to clarify a few things about public participation. So when it says workshops in there, those are our work sessions within this chamber. Those are our work sessions. Those are not workshops outside of this. Now, the rollout could possibly be outside of when we have a full draft. The rollout could be out within the community, and so are the studio series ones. But the workshops, work sessions, workshop was consultants verbiage. Work sessions is what I typically use for ours. So, and then the survey. So in June 2024, the consultant updated the PAC on a community vision survey that was advertised via news release to KMAS, KRXY, Shelton Mason County Journal, the Olympian, Shelton Chamber of Commerce, North Mason Chamber of Commerce, City of Shelton, Economic Development Council, NISA. The community vision survey was also advertised via social media on several Mason County community groups, on the Mason County Facebook page and next door. We posted flyers advertising the survey in all the Mason County libraries and post offices. Unfortunately, even with that advertising, only a little over 120 people filled out that survey. So I just want to put that out there that it has been advertised.
So you did, yeah, so you did everything humanly possible to get the word out.
Well,
Given that your limitations as a human.
With those, you see, it's still only got 120 surveys.
You did the best you could with all the tools available to you.
So, English. It was in English. Yes. It was.
But even taking the English side, just take the English side, it still stinks. And more interestingly, my way to look at the data a little differently is a lot like the chambers. Those are people that are involved with the community, which is kind of interesting. There's more than 125 members in these chambers. So, interestingly, the problems it's twofold. It's getting to all the people, but even the people that are here that know it aren't doing it, which is kind of interesting. And you can get an interesting conclusion there about people that are more involved with the business, at least take the chambers. To me, that's interesting because I would have thought at least the chambers in their groups would get them engaged a little bit more, and they're not responding. So this is a universal problem there.
Okay, Randy.
Well, you're assuming all people in the chamber noticed whatever the chamber came out. And people reading the journal noticed that article, then bother to go to the website, blah, 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 blah. In my opinion, to get a proper survey, you have to contact people directly and let them respond directly. That's just my opinion. I had a question on Peggy's, there's already community engagement, I guess, baked into the process. Who's that on? Is that on you guys or is that on SCJ? Who's going to implement all those things that were on the list that Peggy had listed?
It's a combination.
So,
Well, I would offer public sessions instead of public workshops would have been great, even though I know in the agenda it's public work. But it actually says, we will invite community members to provide feedback. Just to know that this is happening in this chamber, unless you go every month and know the date to check, and if there's an agenda there, which I'm sorry, but it really is never there until the last minute. We contact you, I eventually contacted you, and that's how you get on the list to get invited and notified of these. So I'm just sorry, it's just not how it's described. And when I think about all the partners of the county, I think about, all the PUDs who communicate with their folks every day and forget about in their statements or their invoices. How about their public media sites, their social media sites? The PUDs have one, the road condition guys have one. I mean, aren't they county? I mean, I get those all the time, just a mention there about a survey, but I really have to admit, I find it hard to find the county's social media presence. Some of the other departments in the county are out there all the time, but I mean, I'm not trying to be contrarian, I'm really not. But this is a false representation of what is actually happening. And also, I just have to beg to differ on the short-term rentals. I don't think you can compare the turnout for input on a short-term rental, which impacts everybody. Me as a neighbor of a short-term rental, my neighbors as owners of short-term rentals, people who need more rental housing, but it's a short-term rental. That is immediate impact on all of our lives. This is a planning process, and they don't feel immediate, and that's where the public information and education piece comes out. That's where having relationships with community organizations is huge. If you already have the relationships, that's where they learn about what's going on in the county. So, I mean, this is great, but my frustration comes from even this isn't cutting it. And it's a weak argument to make when we're this far into the process. It's something that should have started way back, and just the consultants kept saying, yes, we're working on it, we'll be presenting it, but it just never came. So that's my frustration.
Okay, thank you.
I'd like to say.
I want to hear from Marissa. She's been sitting here very patiently and she wants to tell us about the interim stuff that she has.
That's what I had on. I mean.
You were gonna show us something on the screen.
Well, that was the vision statement, if we're going to move on to that.
Okay, so you don't want to provide us with any more information on the screen.
I do have a vision statement that I can bring up.
Okay.
If that's what you.
Would the commissioners like to see that?
Yes, please.
Okay, please put it on the
I
screen.
think the public would too.
Yes. Although they may probably want to step up closer to have, unless they have really good eyesight.
Sorry.
What if you disagree with it?
It's not, just read it.
Gee.
Just read
I
it.
read. It's hard. Okay. Fine.
Well, there's the mining.
Yeah, what are you talking about? It's right there.
Yeah. That's it's not in the RCW.
I like that fewer restrictions. And this was generated when?
Well, this statement has been around for, in the last plan and in the plan prior to that, pretty much similar.
So 10, 15 years?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hold tight.
All right. And do you have a recommended changes?
Not my vision.
Okay. All right. So this is what we have. And the commissioners hopefully have had a chance to read it and understand it, or at least read it. And do we have any changes, suggested changes?
I would like to hear from the public.
No, no, yes,
First,
I know, but the commissioners have to talk first.
I have ideas, but if I'm off base.
Well,
If,
before we go, before we go there, is there a second paragraph to this? Well, so in here there was.
Was it the mission statement?
No, I'm reading vision.
Oh.
I'm in this is Mason County Plan 2036, growth and opportunity, vision, quote, Mason County, all that. And then there's another paragraph that says, in urban areas of Shelton, Belfair, blah, 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 end quote. Is there a second paragraph?
This is the vision statement on the screen.
Okay, so second paragraph, okay,
Go by the introduction that might have added.
okay, not a problem. So, no, this is it.
So this is the vision statement, and all the other documentation is kind of supporting it or informational kind of thing. Okay.
hey Brad, do you have any comments?
I had to take myself off mute. No, I guess I don't.
Okay,
That looks pretty good to me, actually. I think we may have some objections from people that says we will remain a primary rural county. Do we have any objections there to that statement? Because I would like to see that remain as it is, not become an urban. So that's the only comments. You know, I mean, timber, mining, agriculture, aquaculture. You know, can't argue with that. And
okay.
ties of family and community to the land.
All right, so we've heard from all the commissioners.
No. So when I look at, let me find the right reference. Okay, so few restrictions. So we're down to line 4, line 5. We are a vibrant economic and social center. Are the UGAs vibrant economic centers? They may be the most vibrant we have, but are they vibrant? Both economically and socially, two separate questions. And I suspect we have room for improvement.
Right, if you want to say vision, I can handle that.
Yeah, vision, yeah, okay.
This
The
is where we
responsible
want to be.
operation of, and we list our natural resources, okay? And so I would comment that responsible operation may mean different things to different people. That always is a challenge. And I think a couple things are missing. When I look at our community profile, I list our largest businesses is retail, trade, public admin, healthcare, accommodation, foods for services, manufacturing. And that's probably 50% of all the jobs. Does that need to somehow be incorporated into this? And as much as it is challenging, given where we are, given the mandates from the state, I think we need to talk about climate change and or environmental justice to some degree. It needs to be a sentence or half a sentence addressing the topic. I mean, about a third of the money that is going into this that we have from the state are on those topics. To not address that topic in the vision statement probably isn't appropriate. We probably need to address those.
So the purpose of the vision statement is here's the perfect world we want to be in X number of years in the future. Okay,
What we're striving for.
the perfect world is we're striving. Okay, so does this get us there based on what we know right now? Randy?
I personally like it. And I get what Will's saying, but maybe that could be underneath vibrant economic, which, how does that define? But personally, before I sign off on it, I'd like to hear from the public.
Right.
So that's
Agreed.
my comment.
Okay.
I think it has to have some kind of public safety side to it also. Potentially.
So we've heard from Will, we've heard from Jeff saying we need to add. Do you have recommended text?
I didn't prepare.
Okay.
I could probably take where it's in the third line from the bottom. Where we start out over with the responsible operation of resource-based industry, somewhere in there, and maybe at the end of that. We want to be good stewards of the land and the environment and, and just keep it short and sweet, but address it.
Right.
Yeah,
I just think something needs to
Right.
be there.
I agree.
Like I said, half a sentence,
yeah.
you're suggesting a half dozen words, that's fine too.
Well, you got the word land at the end. You could get rid of and the close because you got a couple ands there, so you get rid of the one and with a comma. And then talk about being good stewards of the land, your text, you
Right.
go right at the end.
And the environment. I mean, you could leave the environment in there or add the environment, good stewards of the land and environment.
But I sense that there's somewhat of a, like in this climate thing, there's some sense of appropriation. You can't just be good stewards,
Well, I could take this home and I could get with my wife,
No, no,
who's
no.
an English major, and we could get this thing dialed in real
Cool.
good in
I like it.
days. And we could add a lot of fluff to it, but
No,
it's
no,
still
no.
gonna be a vision.
no fluff, just nice sharpness to it.
Yeah.
In my opinion,
Okay.
sorry, in my opinion, it's just an overall vision, in my opinion, vision, just the overall, what direction do I go into? What do I want to be? But then later in the process, then you have discussions on what does vibrant mean? Or, well, if we do this, that's not really responsible, that kind of thing. So I don't know. I would like to hear from the public, but I'm pretty much okay with the way it is now.
Do we intend to attract non-natural resource businesses?
We have them right now.
We don't identify that.
And obviously by our last 10 years of job growth in this county, we obviously didn't address that.
More people work outside of the
That's a
county
sideways
than
way to put
that
it.
are in the county. So are you gonna talk about the commuters too? I mean, bedroom community of Port Orchard, Bremerton, Olympia.
Right.
Again,
Well,
you could add a short couple
There
of
are
words.
differences of opinion on that, which is why I think we need the public. I mean, I have my opinion. I think I diverge with Will on some of that. Fine, but
Yeah.
let's find out what the public wants. I would
We're gonna
concede
get
to the
there.
public.
He says we're gonna get there.
We're gonna
Our
get
chair
there.
says it's gonna get there, so
Okay,
we trust. in
sorry,
our
don't mean
chair.
to beat a dead horse.
Thank you. Okay, so as a commission, we agree that we like the vision statement and we want to add to it. Mike has got some suggested,
And I think
Words.
to also add to Will's point about the industry, you could add a couple of short lines there about attracting a broad industrial base.
I would not use the word industrial. That's.
I said business thing, but I
Yeah.
tried
No,
to,
no.
I
The
think
reason-
industrial manufacturing implies
Yeah,
different
right.
things, yeah.
The only way this kind of,
Economic base,
Yeah.
something to that effect.
something,
But something to add to.
well,
the-
if you
the
read it, it
industry.
says
We have industries there, based
Yeah.
industries. resource-based
responsible
industry.
operation of resource based.
okay.
So there's,
Let me give you some background here. On the industries that are listed there. They don't even hardly pay half of the wages in this county.
Mhm.
They don't pay half,
Yeah.
just check.
Yeah, okay, so obviously we need to work on that. Or as a goal. I'm not saying we
Right.
need to identify exactly what that is, but it has to be something in there because where we are, we're kind of stuck in this rut.
Within the Port of Shelton, we have the ability to attract industrial bases from different manufacturers, industries.
Right,
But there are differences of opinion on that. is it good for the county to attract, the non-natural based industry or whatever? And is that good? If it is, to what extent do we want it in there? One thing an incoming commissioner said was, and he denies he got it from me, is like, if I want to live in Tumwater or Lacey, I'd move to Tumwater or Lacey. We don't need to turn Shelton into that. I'm just saying there's a difference of opinion,
Right.
which the public needs to, but one thing this guy said that I don't necessarily agree with is, growth pays for itself. I'm not sure we know that. I think we need to crunch the numbers, do some scenarios to conclude that. I don't think we know that. I'm just saying there's a difference of opinion
Sure,
before we
sure.
decide to stick that in there as a goal.
Yeah, but did he say what period of performance on payback of that growth?
There's another aspect to that too, and that's wage base, if we don't attract higher wage industries, then we're gonna remain a lower wage county for the foreseeable future.
But if you attract higher wage industries, who's gonna fill those jobs? People already here, people coming in,
They will come.
wanting housing, driving housing prices up.
Yeah, I hear you. I don't disagree.
I mean, we're just projecting in the future based on the
All right,
past.
so we don't have any,
On growth, though, I mean, we have some very different opinions, you expressed one. I know a commissioner who considers growth whimsical.
I'm sorry, say that again.
I know a commissioner that considers growth whimsical. He put it in writing.
What does it mean by whimsical?
no, guys, no, let's,
He just said he said that. That doesn't mean he knows what he means.
okay, let's stick to
Yeah.
the vision, okay? We're getting off topic. So we have some suggested text from Mike here.
And a volunteer,
And with-
and a volunteer,
with
right, and a
assistance from the
volunteer.
So. And we definitely need to take into consideration
I want to hear from
The
this young lady
non-
next year though before I start.
the non-resource based industry. Or what do you, I don't even know how you would call it,
Let's,
Leave that to Elizabeth,
yeah,
my English major. Figure that out.
we'll sort of consolidate, let him
right,
do
Right.
track changes with this once we have some more feedback, just because I know there's lots of hands in the back going like that, and we'll get to there, as you said.
so are we as a commission, satisfied with our now going forward position?
So,
I don't know if satisfied is the right word, but let's go ahead.
All right, so do you have a super major problem?
No, I don't have a super major.
Okay.
problem.
All right.
I'm problem free.
whatever I do will be a draft.
Yeah.
All right, so.
Changes, buddy.
So when do we need to get this done and provide it to staff?
I brought this up so we could look at it again because we weren't satisfied during when we were reviewing.
Well, no, you did exactly what you were supposed to do.
Policy. So I wanted to get you guys thinking about this again and have more public comment about it.
We're gonna get there.
This is a work session or workshop, so we're not making any voting decisions.
No, I'm just saying,
There's no way we're in a
But we can
decision,
assign a
that's for sure.
subcommittee to go.
Yeah.
somebody needs to do something and get it done by
Elizabeth
such and
to
such a time and give it to somebody. That's what I'm getting at. So quickly, can you get something?
I didn't have any preconceived notion that you guys had to have something drafted into me by a certain time. I want us to start thinking about this vision statement, it includes a lot of voices, so we can have meetings on the other topics and still bring the vision statement forward again,
In the back of my mind, I know we got a timeline of
If I-
events that have due dates.
I'll have it to you by the January meeting.
Okay,
I was even gonna say, what about December?
Well, I'm gonna be gone to
We'll
the
get
December
there.
meeting.
Yeah, sorry.
you can take your laptop with you, won't you?
Yeah, I won't be able to zoom in on that one.
Okay, I think we're done with the
Please.
commissioners.
Yeah.
Now it's time for the public. Come on to the podium.
Well,
To the podium.
Podium. Aaron Rice, Shelton. Okay, first of all,
I think you said that for the December 16th meeting, there would be no public comment allowed, right?
Only on the short-term rental issue.
So not on the vision statement,
If we're bringing the vision statement back,
then it would be
Then
no
we-
public comment.
no,
There would be, we.
Oh, okay, I misunderstood that. I was writing down what you were saying earlier. Well, I just think you're selling yourselves short. And it's been brought up that this is like 20, it looks like something from a history book. And there's a lot of good in it. But you're leaving, it's not vibrant. And I think that, yes, an English major could probably spruce it up without losing the context. But there's so much more to this county. I mean, you've got a new art walk and artists and writers, and you have a fantastic library in Shelton. And I don't see that that's in there. You have new businesses. You want to attract people with this vision statement who are going to want to come here, and they're going to not want to change the rural character. They're not going to want to bring in, make it into Tacoma. They're not going to want to make it into something that you don't like already. But I just, please think about making it a little more modern.
Can you
And to
draft
the
me up a
future.
little draft of your vision?
I could do
Okay.
better. I'm sorry. But I could only do better because I just think that this is old.
Yeah.
It says I am
It
old.
happens to the best of us.
What's that?
It happens to the best of us.
Yeah.
I'm 70.
Old like us.
You look like you're 43.
Yeah, but I just get
I'll be 70 next week.
well, no.
He goes to the
I
hairdresser.
saw last week or whenever it was, and I was reading this and I thought, no, there's more to Mason County, there's more to Shelton, there's more to,
Linda
come
Links,
on.
vision, Linda Links,
Yeah,
Shelton.
sorry.
I think of three things, a vision statement,
Hey,
a
guys.
mission statement, or a description. To me, this is a description of Mason County, not a vision statement. So a vision statement, according to Google, is a comprehensive plan vision statement is a concise description of a community's desired future state, outlining long-term aspirations for development, land use, quality of life, serving as a guiding principle for decision-making for the comprehensive plan, providing clear direction, future growth, change in the community. It's not a description of the county. We have a description in another place. It's a vision for the future. And we have a mandate from the state which says we have to include climate resilience and climate change elements in our whole update. So it needs to be totally different than this.
Thank you.
Chica Mackley again, and one thing I'll say is I think affordable housing will actually protect the character of Shelton. Because most of the people who are gonna wanna live in Shelton with affordable housing are people who already live here and just wanna stay here. So in my opinion, you're protecting the rural character by keeping the people who wanna live here and love it here and are from here.
Julianne Gale, I really like Marissa's idea of taking time with the vision statement. As we go through the chapters, maybe additional things will become clear and hopefully there will be really deep community engagement. And I just wanted to add a few pieces that matter to me as a Mason County resident. When I first moved here, one of the things I loved about Mason County is how we help each other out. A lot of the vision statement here is privacy and independence, which I do love. I do love those things, but I also really like that my neighbors will tell me if my ducks get out. I also like it that things happen with a handshake and not a bunch of bureaucracy compared to other places. I also like it that we take care of each other. I like it that my neighbor hires someone to plow his driveway and he takes care of the berm in front of my driveway too. And I think in a time where there's increased polarization and disconnect in our communities, having a vision towards unity and togetherness and how we have and will continue to help each other out and take care of each other would be really beautiful. When a few pieces that are just in my mind, to me, the vision statement, when I think about climate change and economic development and taking care of our community, this would be a world where our building materials are grown and harvested sustainably close to home. It's we would be a place with safe, healthy, and abundant employment in local workplaces. We would be a place where no group of people suffers while another group unfairly benefits. We would be a place of healthy soil, clean air and water now and for all future generations. And that most of all, we would be a place of abundance, abundant lands and waters that are full of food for everybody, just like we have been many, many years ago in the past. And I think we could be again.
Okay, how about anybody online?
I did not see anyone raising their hand or unmuting.
Okay, so I guess with that, we've heard from the public as much as the public is gonna say something.
Okay, I'll make one last comment. Yeah, growth is inevitable and we need to prepare for it. But there are some people who believe that Mason County best role is as a bedroom community, including a University of Washington professor whose practice is studying the roles of the counties in the state of Washington. And he'd been into the chamber a few years ago. Now, that may be wrong, that may be right, but I don't think you can dismiss it out of hand if that's what the public wants. And, you know, some people like the idea, you go outside the county, you create your wealth somewhere else with all the hassles that creating wealth can cause, bring it back into the county. The person that lives in the county and creates the wealth elsewhere pays the same property tax, sales tax as everyone else, whether they work here or not. And also I talked to a Edward Jones lady. There's like 5 or 6 Edward Jones areas in the community. And I'm like, I thought we were poor. Is there enough money in the community to support that many Edward Jones organizations? And she said, yes. Because one thing that's happening is, for example, people in California they'll sell their house for $3 million. Oh, I can retire. I'll go up to Mason County, buy a house for a third or less of that, put the rest away. They're bringing in wealth to Mason County. So I think that's something, if that's what the community wants, that should be part of the mission statement, in my opinion. I mean, you can debate whether that's true or optimal or not, but it should not be dismissed out of hand, in my opinion.
Okay.
Thanks for letting me do that.
All right, so hearing no more discussion.
You got one more.
Let me throw an idea out real quick, Bob. Might consider drafting 2 vision statements. Take what we have and modify it and track changes, start over. If you want some help, I'll join the itty bitty subcommittee of one to make it 2. Just,
Yeah, no, I like that.
I like some of the words of, as much as I would love to have it in front of us, we're 8-10 months into this process, don't have it. Maybe it's really worthwhile to take at least till January, but likely longer. We have a draft, work from there, and then refine the draft over time.
Yeah.
You know, I'm just thinking of some of there were a lot of things that were tossed out from the public that need to be thought through and more than in the next 10 minutes.
Yeah. And try to keep it all consolidated.
Yeah, that's why I'm almost thinking maybe 2, and then as people read potentially 2, maybe then the 1 forms as a 3rd version. that ultimately is sort of
Right.
manipulated and I mean molded to what we see and then taken to the board of commissioners.
All right. I think we're done with that. And now the last item is assign land use element homework for the next meeting.
I gotta go to
I'm
the
gonna be gone.
I'm gonna say it to Jeff.
Thank you.
And it's just following the agenda. Okay, good.
10 pages, 50 pages, any guess?
Working.
596.
Ooh, cool.
Like I said, assign it to Jeff. Thank you. Work in progress, that's fine.
Good.
Okay.
We're gonna make it manageable. We're gonna make it more
We saw what happened on the county planning policies.
Hey.
Should be good.
I block a day.
That's enough.
Okay, so that pretty much takes care of everything on the published agenda.
I make a motion to adjourn.
So I hear a second. Yes, it's been
Second.
moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?